It is certainly an honor to receive this award from IPS, and especially from Mrs. Letelier. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done for human rights in Latin America and in this country as well. Thank you. On behalf of the 42 worker centers that are part of the National Day Labor Organizing Network, we, all of us, accept this honor, this recognition. We accept it on behalf of the thousands of men and women whom every day defy all kinds of odds to look for an honest day of work to feed their families. And in the process, they make our communities better. You know, every day in this country, about 120,000 men and women get together on street corners in front of home improvement stores to look for work. There are about 700 hiring locations in this country where men gather to wait for their employers. And this is just in one day. The number of day laborers in this country is obviously a lot more bigger. As people come in and out of the labor market, in and out of permanent jobs, in and out of the informal economy. But in the quest for a day of work, you know, day laborers and immigrant workers face many indignities in this country: wage theft, injuries at the workplace, violence, retaliation when they speak up, and the everyday denial of their basic human rights and civil rights. That's happening in our country. And in the last years, in one way or another, because of their high visibility, the day laborers have become kind of like the public face of immigration. They have been deemed as symbols of this increasingly angry and divisive debate in our country around immigration. We're considered the symbols of the broken and outdated immigration system. And we literally stand in the front lines of the battle to define the future of what it means to be an American. But I want to share with you that in the face of indignity, exploitation, humiliation, hatred and bigotry, stigma, fear, and in some places terror, like in Maricopa County, Arizona, there is courage. Courage to peacefully resist. Courage to defend and protect ourselves. And yes, even courage to love our detractors. That has been the fight in Arizona. That's what we've done in Arizona. I'm very proud to share with you tonight that in Arizona we have put up a fierce fight, a loving fight. And the people's resistance in Arizona against SB 1070 and other anti-immigrant policies have exposed a remarkable domestic human rights crisis. And thank you to IPS for bringing this crisis to light. Oftentimes, this country portrays itself as the champion of human rights in other places, but not this time, and it's because of IPS. You know, SB 1070 intended to silence the voices of people. And those who have been rendered invisible by injustice have shown their faces in Arizona by the tens of thousands. On May 29, about 100,000 people from all walks of life, from all kinds of people, marched about 6 miles under a very hot summer. And it was a journey of love. 100,000 people. There was no single incident of violence. The streets were clean after the march ended. But members of the Tea Party, about 25 of them, came to counter-demonstrate. And they had guns. They had AK-47s and M16s. And our side, we had love, understanding. And that is definitely more powerful than anything else, right? In Arizona, we have come to a very simple understanding, and I think like we all know this, that nowhere in the world poor people, oppressed communities have been given anything for free. We have also had to fight for it. And the brothers and sisters from Guatemala and Honduras are showing us today. Change is happening, and I'm very happy to say that change is coming from the South. And if you can see in the last years in our country, the vibrant immigrant rights marches, that's because change is coming from the South. In Arizona, because we have realized that the oppressed people have to fight, organizers have begun to create the barrio defense committees. And other communities are starting to implement this strategy in other places. That is because people want to take their destiny in their own hands. Humble people, day laborers, domestic workers, construction workers, etc. No longer will we accept the advice of many in this town and in other places as well, who have been wanting to silence us, while others come up with a almighty message that's going to achieve immigration reform. Who we are, our existence, our presence, our humanity, our struggle for equality is not off message. It never has and it never will. If America benefits from the fruits of our labor, then America must accept our humanity. Our country faces many dilemmas, some economic, some international, and some dilemmas that have risen from historical cultural tensions. And one of the dilemmas right now is what we do with the 12 million undocumented migrants who live in this country, who live and work and love in this country, and who have become actually part of America's landscape. The question is, do we exclude the new Americans from contributing and enjoying the benefits of being part of a civil society? I happen to believe in a vision for America that is inclusive of all those people who live, work, and love here, all of us. To preserve our country's bedrock values, we must honor our legacy of being, for the most part, a nation of immigrants. And I say for the most part because Native Americans have an entirely different experience. African Americans were brought here in slave ships. And in my view, the best way to carry out this legacy is by enacting a legalization program with path to citizenship and political equality. And if we cannot achieve immigration reform in the immediate future because of what a friend of mine said, political and moral constipation, at least, we should stop the deportations. And at least we should stop criminalizing migrants and their families. We should stop the deportations. And I have to tell you why Arizona matters. This administration, the Obama administration, is deporting 1,100 people a day. These are mothers, fathers, granddaughters, grandparents. But half of these deportees come from Arizona. And that tells you the gravity of the crisis that we're facing in Arizona. We're going to win, and I know that we count with all of you in this room. Eventually, we will win. Because going the SB 1070 path is simply un-American. And Arizona's and other lawmakers and natives across the country have never been interested in fixing this so-called broken immigration system. They've been working towards the exclusion of people, and they have a well-thought-out strategy, and it was part of the SB 1070 language in Arizona. It's called the attrition strategy, attrition through enforcement. And essentially, this strategy has three elements. Number one, to make it impossible for people to economically survive. That means not giving workers the legal remedy when they are cheated of their wages to go and recover their unpaid wages. That means not allowing mothers when they are victims of domestic violence to be able to call the cops for protection. That means employer sanctions, going after employers who hire undocumented workers. That means denying the right of day laborers to stand on public sidewalks. That's the first element, make it impossible to survive. The second element of this strategy is denying access to justice. Denying the possibility that the institutions that administer justice are accessible to undocumented workers and their families. But in order for these two elements of this strategy to work, they need a third one. And that is language. That is normalizing hatred. In Maricopa County, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, for instance, has paraded undocumented inmates in uniform in the streets and called the media to mount a spectacle. Mothers, pregnant women have been taken, detained, arrested by Sheriff Joe Arpaio. They've gone in labor while in jail. They've been forced to give birth in shackles. These rituals of humiliation are not a simple coincidence. Its intention is to normalize hatred and the mistreatment of immigrants. And I would say people of color and poor people, oppressed communities. But they use ugly language too, from illegal alien, criminal, invader, to terrorist. And this is well intended. They know what they're doing. Their intention is essentially to make life so miserable so that we take our things, pack our bags, and leave. But that, brothers and sisters, is not happening because we have roots here. Our families live here. I'm from El Salvador. I am married to a U.S. citizen. I have 2 beautiful kids. I don't think I'm leaving. And I don't think a lot of people here are leaving either. Right? This is our adopted homeland, and a lot of us live in families with mixed status. You have people with documents and people without documents. We're here. We're going to stay here. And tonight I want to send a very clear message to our detractors, to the demagogues who, in a way, are controlling the politics of the day. We don't hate them, but we don't fear them either. To the Minutemen, to the vigilante groups, and to the members of the Tea Party, I asked them not to fear diversity. I asked them to embrace it, to love it, to make it theirs. If they do it, they're going to be much happier than what they are around. And it's good that they come together, because it's important to come together. The problem is that they have come together to scapegoat the most vulnerable. Tonight, I asked them to come together to confront the most powerful. It's very easy to do. And to President Obama, to the Republicans and Democrats alike, I tell you that the very people being called illegal will one day, just like me, will become citizens of this country. It will happen. And when that day comes, we will not only remember the hateful deeds of our opponents, but the silence and inactions of those who are supposed to be our friends. And especially those friends who have power. And I want to tell you that when we win our citizenship, like many others have done in the past, we will have written the new chapter in our country's enduring journey for social justice. And we're all here to make that happen. Muchas gracias. Legalize America.